Black Myth Woo Ender Lilies. Yep, that's what we're talking about. Don't click away. Ender Lillies, Quietus of the Nights is Metroidvania style game with all the makings of an absolute classic. Now, some of you might not be interested already because like me, you're not really into those kinds of games. But Ender Lillies is truly something special. When you start up the game, there's no tedious tutorial, there's no unskippable cutscenes with cringy dialogue or obnoxiously loud music. There's none of that. Instead, you wake up. It's quiet. It's gloomy. And after very brief dialogue from your first ally, you go. You just go and explore this gothic maze of what seems like a lost, poisoned land with no signs of life or light, with the only exception being you, the main protagonist. Who's the main protagonist? It's just some little girl who summons monsters to take down other monsters who you then purify and they are now your ally as well. It's simple. It doesn't waste your time with needlessly complicated subplots that ultimately don't matter. It's a very straightforward kind of game that lets its visuals do most of the storytelling. You do occasionally get to pick up certain artifacts and notes and letters that can show you more lore to the game if that's something you're interested in, but for the most part, you don't really need it. You just explore the world and kind of put the pieces together yourself as to what happened here, without the game actually telling you exactly what happened. It lets you use your own imagination to bring this story to life. I talked about Code Vein not long ago, and while I do enjoy that game, it's not because of the story. I clocked out of that story fairly early on and just focused on the game. The music wasn't really pulling me in either, nor was the atmosphere. Ender Lillies, on the other hand, has some of the best atmosphere and music combos I've ever experienced in a game. If Edgar Allan Poe and Danny Elfman made a video game together, this would be that game. In terms of the gameplay, it's a very simple game, but it's not an easy game. I'm not about to pretend like it's the Dark Souls and Metroidvania games, but like Dark Souls, it's a lot of dodge and hit. You're not about to walk into a boss fight or even a mini boss fight and start unleashing mega ultra wombo combos. It's just not gonna work. But unlike Souls games, these bosses do tend to have a pattern. I've had my difficulties playing with this game, but even in those moments, I always thought the game was still being fair in its difficulty. That is, except for one thing. I have one major problem with this game, and that's the fact that just touching the enemy hurts you. Now you might say, so what? That's how it is in a lot of games. Just look at Mario. And while that's true, in Mario, you don't have a dodge move that you must use if you want to progress. In Ender Lillies, you need to dodge enemy attacks, and sometimes you need to dodge towards your enemy, otherwise you'll still get hit. But then, when I dodge towards my enemy, sometimes I dodge right into their body, and that causes me to still take damage. So either I dodge away from the enemy and take damage, or I dodge towards the enemy and take damage. And I hate when games put you in these situations. Another issue I have, although it's a small one, is the amount of damage you take from pretty much every hit, and it's not a little, it's a good chunk. And because of that, it would be nice to have more than just 3 prayers to use at a time. What are prayers? In simple terms, they're essentially potions. They're healing items that you often need but rarely have. You can only carry 3 in the beginning, and for most of my playthrough, that's all I had. Eventually, I found an item I could equip that let me carry 4 at a time, but that was already after I unlocked the first ending. Occasionally, you might find a prayer along the way to your next boss fight, but otherwise, you have to go to a safe zone to replenish your prayers, and that can cause a lot of back and forth. It's tedious, but it never ruined the game for me. Overall, Ender Lillies is a hell of a game that deserves a lot more love and attention, and I can't wait to play more of it. Mainly so I can bask in its amazing atmosphere, beautifully sad music, and chilling boss fights. I give this game 4 prayers out of 5.
Thank you for watching! If you're not subscribed, be sure to do so by clicking here. If you are subscribed, we thank you for keeping the anime dream alive. Be sure to check out our other content here and here. For even more content, be sure to check out the rest of our channel and be sure to follow us on Twitter by clicking the link in the description below. I'm Felicia, and I'll see you next time.